In this video, I'm going to show you how to master real estate research by becoming a Redfin.com ninja. What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Cleveland Investor Primer channel. My name is Rob, and I'm here to provide you with useful, unbiased content on the topic of real estate investing. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing down below and tapping that bell icon to be notified every time I publish a new video. I decided to make this video because real estate investing needs to be looked at more like a business than a lot of people tend to think of it. When you think about investing in something like, say, stock in a company like Pfizer or AT&T or McDonald's, if I invest in one of those stocks and you invest in one of those stocks, we're going to have the exact same return, regardless of anything that we do. Real estate is a bit different because if I buy a piece of property and you buy an identical piece of property, we may have the same exact return, but then again, we may have very different experiences with very different returns. And this underscores the importance of research and due diligence whenever buying a piece of real estate for investment. It's never a good idea to just rely on information that you're getting from your agent or broker or turnkey provider and just be satisfied with that information alone. It is critical that you really dig and find out your own information and learn as much as you possibly can about the investment and all the associated parameters before you actually dive in. When I do real estate research investing, one of my favorite tools is Redfin.com, which is a great platform that exists for researching properties that are not just for sale, but properties that have sold as well. Before I get too far in this video, I need to mention a few things. First off, this is not a sponsored video. So Redfin is not supporting this video. They're not paying me. I'm not an employee of Redfin. I have no association with Redfin.com whatsoever, other than the fact that I use their platform pretty religiously for real estate investing research. Secondly, this is really just about the interface. I don't use their brokerage services. I have my own broker that I work with who is not affiliated with Redfin, and I've used that broker for years, and I cannot really speak to using Redfin as a brokerage for buying or selling property. Third, Redfin.com doesn't service many of the tertiary cities, some of the smaller cities around the United States. So if you are searching for property in a city like Peoria, Illinois, or Erie, Pennsylvania, you are not going to be able to use Redfin for that end. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. And fourth, Redfin is only useful for searching for properties that are in that 1 to 4 family range or condominiums. If you are searching for anything that's larger, like apartment buildings, 5+ units, Redfin is typically not going to be the best interface for you for that research. Without further ado, let's jump into Redfin.com and get you well on your way to becoming a Redfin ninja. When you first head to Redfin.com here, one of the things you'll want to do, if you haven't already done so, is sign up on the website. You're going to get a lot more functionality and really be able to do the most robust research if you're actually signed up on the website. I also think that using the computer-based interface is going to be a lot more useful than using the app. The app is probably fine if you are on the go and want to get some quick information, but when you're doing in-depth research, I think that getting on the desktop version is probably going to be the most useful way to go about it. You can see here that I'm actually already signed in. I just stay signed in all the time because this is my own personal laptop. So it says in the corner up here, Robert, so I'm already signed in. I don't need to actually go about signing in, and we can jump right into doing a search. We can start off with a very basic search, which is just going to be active properties for sale, which is basically the default if you've never been to Redfin before, or if you've just kind of done basic searches before. You probably have that default setting still in place, which is just going to be active searches. And one of the really great things about Redfin is that you can search by different types of parameters. You can search by neighborhood or by city or zip code or county, and you can even look up a specific property just by address. So we're going to go through all that. I think if we start with a neighborhood, we are going to start with a neighborhood in Cleveland, which is one of the markets where I invest a lot in. Obviously, That's kind of the focus of this channel in a lot of ways, though most of the content that I talk about does apply to markets beyond just Cleveland. If you're interested in learning more about why I actually invest in Cleveland primarily, check out the video that is linked in the card that's up on the screen right now. But taking a look at, let's pick Edgewater, which is a popular neighborhood in Cleveland on the west side of Cleveland. We can do a search for Edgewater, Cleveland, Ohio, and it draws this lovely little boundary around what it defines the neighborhood to be. And then from here, we can see all the properties that are currently on the market. Again, these are the current active listings. Just for the purposes of showing all the different types of ways you can search, I'm gonna close out of Edgewater. It'll remove that boundary and show all kinds of stuff. And let's jump into maybe a city search. So let's try Euclid, which is another suburb or a suburb of Cleveland on the east side of the city. So Euclid, Ohio, and then click on that. And of course, now it's going to show us all of the active properties within the city of Euclid. But Euclid's a fairly large suburb. So let's say we wanted to get a little bit more specific than this and look for just a single zip code. We can do so. Just again, close out of that. And I'm gonna go with 44123, which is a zip code in Euclid where I actually do own a house in that zip code myself. So you could then see all the properties that are listed currently in this 44123 zip code. And finally, at the broadest level, we can do a search on the county. So if I were to type in Cuyahoga, which is the county that Cleveland is in, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, US, it will do a search on the entire county. And this finally gets us to the point where, as you can see, the number of properties that are active in this range that we're looking exceeds 500. And whenever that happens, it shows just basically these bubbles that you have to either zoom in further or add different parameters so that you can get a more specific search and not get quite so many properties that are showing up in here at once. This happens if you search any major city. If you were to search, say, the city of Chicago or even probably the city of Cleveland itself, let's do a quick search on Cleveland. And there are most likely more than 500 properties for sale in the city of Cleveland, and it will just show bubbles. Yep, of course, just bubbles. So then you'd have to either zoom in further, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can put different parameters. So if, for instance, if you wanted to put on a filter over here, we can go more filters. And let's say you wanted to search within a specific price range, a specific type of property, saying, single family house, condominium, townhouse, multifamily. They do have land and other types, which other types is typically mobile homes, which is not even really real estate. That's a topic for another day. But let's say we wanted to search single family houses in the city of Cleveland under, that's the number of bedrooms, which you could also search by bedrooms, bathrooms. But let's say it's searching under a certain price. All the single family houses in the city of Cleveland under $50,000. And then we are going to zoom back out. And finally, we are at the point where there aren't so many that it shows the bubbles, because the number of results of houses that are in the city of Cleveland under $50,000 isn't, well, yes, there's still quite a few, but it's not nearly as large as the total number of properties that are for sale on the market in the city of Cleveland. So that's one of the great ways you can search all sorts of different parameters. If you were concerned about things like age of the property, I know some people are thinking about things like lead paint, and they may not want to buy a property that's older than 1978. So if you were in that boat and you said you didn't want to buy anything older than a certain age, you could say that the minimum year built would be 1980, which then, because we have the $50,000 parameter, so anything that's that new is probably not going to be that cheap in this current market. So if we just said no max, there's not a ton of newer construction in the city of Cleveland. It's a pretty old city that was developed 100 plus years ago. It was founded like over 200 years ago. So a lot of the housing stock is on the older side, though there is some redevelopment, particularly in some of the hot, trendy neighborhoods. But again, getting a little off topic, but this is a way that you can add all these different parameters. I encourage you to explore all these different things and pick what is interesting to you. If you wanted to only invest in smaller houses, you can say, maximum area of the house would be 1,000 square feet. If you wanted to only invest in larger houses, you could say the minimum square feet might be 1,250 or 1,500. Basically, all these different parameters are things that you can add to your search filters, and then only land with the results that you're interested in. So if you wanted to just search for multifamilies, say you're somebody who wants to buy a duplex, maybe for house hacking or just as an investment, you can. There aren't a whole lot of newer duplexes, but if we said new minimum and just searched all the duplexes or all the multifamilies, you see them all come up. You can add all kinds of other parameters, and it's pretty great as an interface, though the information that you're going to get up to this point is not a whole lot different than what you would have gotten on a site maybe like Zillow or Realtor.com. But here is where the going gets good. Actually, the things that are searchable on Redfin are kind of amazing, actually, because what you can do is, let's clear all of our searches. Let's just go back to houses, actually. And then one of the things that I really, really love is that while it still says for sale on status, we could actually go to under contract and pending and click that instead. And then we can see, let's go down to a specific zip code. Let's go back to 44123 as a zip code. And again, we've got the under contract pending filter on. And we can then see what are all the properties that are actually pending status right now. So these are the properties that have been listed and the seller has accepted an offer. They'll either be labeled contingent or pending. If a property is labeled contingent, that means that it's not quite a sure bet yet that it will close. Even if it's pending, it's not a sure bet, but if it's contingent, it's still riding on a contingency. Maybe it's a loan approval, maybe it's an inspection or a combination of those kinds of things. Once it goes to pending status, it's going to be a lot less likely that it will fall out of contract, though it still sometimes does happen. But knowing your market, knowing not just what's for sale, but what's pending and what's contingent is going to be really helpful for you to just really understand that lay of the land. Because again, thinking about real estate investing like a business is really important. Let's dig into one of these houses here. Let's pick just randomly 21250 Pride Avenue in Euclid. It's pending status, and we can get a sense of what's going on with this. It's got, of course, a nice set of pictures, nice looking, good condition house. Okay. If we scroll down, we can actually see, which I love this feature of Redfin, we can see the property history. So we can see that it was listed on September 17th, 2019 at $69.9, and it went pending 5 days later. So that tells you right there that this property, it's a pretty hot property. So, a property that is in this kind of condition, this style and this type in this area, priced at that point, went pending very, very quickly. Likewise, you can take a look at another property. Let's see if I can think of one. Heartland. Actually, I've looked at this house before, not inside the house, but looked at the listing before. 23760 Heartland is also contingent. And if we scroll down, we can see that this one has been on the market for, I believe, ages and ages. Yes, it was listed in May of 2019 and didn't go contingent until August. And if we look at the history before that, we can see that it had been listed a number of times. The previous sale is listed as $104,000 in 2007. So this may be a short sale. I'm not sure offhand. I'd have to do a little bit more digging, which is again a topic for a different video. But just looking at not just what properties are on the market, but also what's already contingent or pending, and then what those days on the market are looking like is really helpful for understanding the market and understanding what you're up against before you actually pursue any properties. Ultimately, it's really about connecting the dots, right? Because this is, you're running your own business, so it's not about something handed to you on a platter. I know it may seem that way when you talk to some of the turnkey providers, but at the end of the day, you are still buying this asset that may perform as the turnkey provider tells you, and it may not. So you need to really understand the market that you're getting into before you dive headfirst. Let's go back to the primary tab here and go back to our filters. And let's turn off for sale, and then we actually can look at the sold listings, which I think is really useful because they're plotted on the map. And again, same thing, you can search by zip code, you can search by city, you can search by neighborhood. And not only does it show just the last 3 months, you can change it. So if you wanted to see just the past month, the past 6 months, the past 3 years, or literally all time. And one of the things that's really nice is that it searches not just MLS records, but it searches public records for sales. So you'll be able to find properties that maybe sold that weren't arm's length transactions. Sometimes that's the case if let's say, if we go back 6 months here, if you see a property that is sold for some insanely low amount, quite often that'll be something that's not an arm's length transaction. It may be a sale within a family. It may be some sort of distressed sale. There could be a situation where a wholesaler is getting involved and the property didn't pass through the MLS. It was never listed formally. But basically any property that is transferred, here's one that actually is a good example. So 21631 Crystal Avenue sold on August 30th, 2019, but on Redfin, 0, right? It was never on Redfin. It was never actually listed on the MLS as far as I can tell. But if we let's pick another one. Let's pick this one right here. This was actually listed, right? So 129 days on Redfin, 295 East 208th Street had actually been listed. So you could actually see the history of that on here. You could see scrolling down kind of like we did before. We can take a look at the history of the property. It was listed in November of 2018 for 100K. In February, they dropped it to 97.5. In March, they dropped it to 95. And then in May, it went contingent. And then later in May, it went pending. And then it sold in June for $94,000. So this really helps you dig in and understand the market. When you look at those sold properties, you can really get a sense of what's what. Another thing I really like about Redfin is that when a property is sold, you can see right here who listed it, so who the listing brokerage was or listing agent, as well as who the buyer's agent was. This isn't filled out 100% of the time. There are occasions that it's left blank, but I would say the majority of the time when a property is sold via the MLS, these fields are populated and it's super useful. So you can see, especially if you start looking at a lot of different properties, you can see, okay, well, who are the buyer's agents that are covering this ground and having great success with it. So this buyer's agent was Mark McGuire with Keller Williams, and the listing agent, looks like it was a dual listing with Michael Ferrante and Nancy Red Shelton with Century 21 Homestar. So again, not affiliated with this house or any of these properties, just picking these kind of randomly as examples to show you how you can really get tons of information out of redfin.com, far more than you can get out of pretty much any other real estate website that I've ever seen. Now, if we go back to our main page here, we can see, if we go back to our filters, we actually could turn on sold and for sale at the same time. So if we wanted to see the active listings as well as the sold listings, we can do so and see them on the same map. What that really can help you do is see if the sold prices are in line with the listing prices, just really at a glance. Because if you're seeing listing prices that are all 40% higher than the sold prices, that can give you a picture of what's going on in the market, just even at a quick glance. Obviously you want to go deeper than a quick glance, but to start off, if you're looking at a new zip code or a new suburb that you haven't looked at before, it's really helpful to see them sometimes on the same screen like this. If we go back to our filters now and turn off the for sale and only look at the sold for the past 3 months, we can apply filters here and we can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the list, and there's this lovely little download all, which if you click will let you download the data actually as a CSV file. So if you are a data nerd like I am and want to do some tracking in Excel, this is a great way to just grab that data. And I don't know, again, of any other consumer-facing website that's free to sign up for that will give you this much information and allow you to literally just download a spreadsheet with data, any kind of data that you want for properties that are for sale or properties that have sold, and then do what you wish with that information. While I do really love Redfin a lot, of course, I mentioned early on a couple of the drawbacks. In regards to region, let's take a quick look. if we were to, let's go back to just for sale, apply filters, and we can zoom out, and I'm going to remove outline. You can actually see where, where Redfin's coverage area stops, because it will turn gray. So you can see that the properties will show up in the areas that they cover. And as we move east of Cleveland area, we just go further east, further east, further east. You'll see that once we hit the Pennsylvania border, it is out of their service area, because this gets into the Erie, Pennsylvania area. The same would be true if you were to look at, Peoria, Illinois, or tons of other small cities. There are, lots of other places in Pennsylvania, but they're not in the Erie area. If we go further south, though, we can see that they actually are in the Pittsburgh area. If we get down here, we are getting there. And here we are getting closer to Pittsburgh. And this is definitely an area that Redfin covers once you get down to the Pittsburgh area. And another drawback is that, I mentioned that I encourage you to sign up for redfin.com to get all those features, but they will email you a lot. I find that you probably can, manage your subscription to the emails, but I don't bother with that. I do see them in my inbox pretty much daily. I get emails from Redfin, and just kind of get used to that they will be emailing you. But other than that, I think Redfin, again, is a great interface. If we do a search here, everything from major cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, they're all on Redfin, all the way down to some of these smaller cities. Like if we were to, for instance, look at Green Bay, Wisconsin is sure enough on Redfin. So it's really going to be only those small markets that are kind of more out in remote areas that you usually can't find on Redfin. But any of the markets where most of the investors are searching these days can be served by Redfin. And I really do think that Redfin is a great way to do that research. Remember, investing in real estate is the same as starting a business, and you need to think of it such, including doing that research and due diligence and knowing all the ins and outs of your market. If you found this video helpful, please do smash the like button down below. It's really helpful for the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing to the channel for more useful content like this. Once again, this is the Cleveland Investor Primer channel. My name is Rob, and thanks so much for watching.